Good morning, Los Angeles.
Good morning, Vancouver, is
Oh,
it?
you don't even know where I am. You don't even care. You
Does
know, that's the
anyone know
thing.
where they are? That's the
That's the
question.
thing about Americans. You don't give a shit.
We all care about the loft above the party. How are
um,
you?
James, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Busy, actually. We're in the middle
Oh
of
man,
we're in the middle of not to bring the conversation down, but doing a big campaign about COVID and vaccinations at the moment. So it's very interesting actually. Getting the real facts from real experts is a bit harrowing, but it's also optimistic at the moment, thankfully.
that's very disconcerting given your previous government.
Well, I know. Talk about night and day, mon Dieu. Anyway, let's not get political. Be careful about that.
And it's funny because I keep saying you Americans because you're not American.
Oh, you can tell.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was actually one of the
Is
selling
it my
features of.
shirt? Yes.
Well,
Sorry.
no, it was the selling feature of this show that the way to get ahead in life is by having a British accent.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I remember once when I was actually working in Toronto at an advertising agency, and this account guy said to me after a meeting, he said, "You know, James, even when you're speaking shit, you sound intelligent," which is actually
I
pretty true,
know,
actually. Anyway.
I know. It's like when somebody has a Russian accent, you think they're doing a drug deal, no matter who they are. You know, it's all true. Well, they probably are doing drug deals. There you go.
Yeah.
Anyways, but we're getting off on a sidetrack. Now, I want to introduce you formally to all the brand DIYers who are watching this, whether it's live or you're watching after the fact. James and I got to know each other because you were the creative director at TBWA Shy of Day in Toronto, and when I was the creative director at Grey. And we got together, I think, through a mutual love of alcohol and not really giving a shit.
Yes, very true. That's sort of the story of my life. But anyway, carry on.
And then instead of throwing it all away on the green movement like I did, what you decided to do was, crawl up the corporate ladder to, the pinnacle of your incompetence. And you went from TBWA Shy Day
Thank you,
to be
Marc.
the creative director of the BBC, for Christ's sake. And I was like, what? And then after that, you went even further. Then you came back and you went to the United States and you were the creative director for NBC and then HBO. And then last week I was talking to my wife and she said, whatever happened to James Spence? I said, I'm sure he's basically just faded into the background. And I look and you're like the head of YouTube, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, well, speak loudly and carry a big stick, I think. But
It's
yeah,
unbelievable. You're doing the dream job, or you've done a series of dream jobs. Congratulations, man.
well, I think there's a real temptation to think this is my path.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I've always done, and I think that if you're always open to change, you had an agency called Change, didn't you? If you're
Yeah, that was my green agency. That's when I
That's right.
decided
You're
to
always
pursue my
open to
career.
change. Then really, you're not going to get stuck anywhere. I remember someone said to me in an interview something like this. They said, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?" And I said, "I haven't got a clue, but I hope to be in the middle of it."
I love that.
You know.
I
And I
love
think,
that.
what happened with me was after TBWA, I sort of fell out of love with advertising because it became so formulaic and it became so dependent. Clients became more and more dependent on research rather than their gut instincts, and that was a real problem because, let's face it, gut instinct and spidey sense are generally right.
Mm-hmm.
There are definite things that research can do. When it comes to sort of communicating brand promise, etc. But when it comes to the real magic, that is real instinct, and you can't test for that. And I've seen so much wonderful work just ditched because it didn't score highly on this particular matrix or that particular matrix. And so I got a call from a recruiter in London who said, did I want to go to the BBC to creative direct, write, art direct, and direct? And I was like, no, that sounds like shit. So no, but I couldn't believe it. And literally, as I said to you the other day, I got over there, and from making sort of 55 animatics and maybe one commercial a year, my team, which went from sort of about 20 to about 250, we made 3,000, just under 3,000 pieces of film in my first year. And it was kind of like, you know, walking into sunshine. It was an extraordinary experience. I mean, it really was.
Wow.
And you know, and it taught me so much, because again, the other thing about TV is you can't fuck around. You can't spend 6 months on research. You can't do it.
Yeah.
A show to get out, you've got a premiere to get out, you've got an ad campaign to get out to respond to some public issue. And so you haven't got time. And I actually think that makes the work much fresher and much more responsive, and much more, you know, aware of what's happening, you know, socially. Because again, you know, if it's not going to connect socially, then who gives a shit as well? So, you know, it taught me all of that stuff. And having come through sort of the, you know, the grinding machinery of advertising, to have that, but then also the knowledge of the sort of rigor that advertising can bring, and ended up, you know, it's probably why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
No, it's fantastic. I love it. And you're so right. I mean, I remember when I was at BBDO in Germany, and that was right before I came back to Canada. I remember we worked on Wrigley. Did you ever work on Wrigley?
I never worked on Wrigley, no, thankfully.
No, I worked on Wrigley, and this is a great story. The first week I was there, they threw the job at me. Come up with a new Wrigley. The taste lasts longer, and it's like surfing, because we might get to go to California and choose surfing commercial. And so surfing, bigger waves. And 2 years later, when I left BBDO, I'd given the job to the German team, because basically it just folded me. I became a shadow of myself. Right. And so we gave it off to a German team, and 2 years later, they were still working on the same commercial.
Well, if I could just jump in there, we did a commercial when I was at TBWA for Whiskers, and it was for Whiskers Temptation Cat Treats. Now, we are talking 20 years ago now, literally 20 years. And it features a couple coming out onto a balcony, and this guy chucks a Whiskers Temptation treat over the edge of the balcony. His cat jumps right up like 30 feet in the air and lands. Brilliant idea. Sorry, that clearly wasn't a great idea. But it got through testing, and everyone said, oh, the cat's sweet. And yeah, cats will do anything for this particular treat. It's still running globally on TV. It's still running now. I mean, and in fact, they reshot it in England with English actors, exactly the same script. And the creative team who did it actually put it on like a review site. And it was a horrible idea. And that is advertising. And, you know, and if they actually thought, what could we do now, you know, in this space to make something relevant, funny, they'll be doing brilliant things. But no, because it researched well and everyone had a comfort zone, and it probably moves the needle 0.05 a year, everyone's like, that'll be fine. And fine, is not enough.
It's funny, because I'm reading a book, because I'm putting a pitch together for a guy, and his claim to fame is being able to break the bureaucracy, bust bureaucracy. And so I'm reading this book, a great book called Humanocracy. It's written by two Harvard Business Review guys and profs, big brains. And what they talk about is the whole idea of this bureaucracy, and that today you would think that technology would crush the bureaucracy, but for managers, they can measure everything. They can keep tabs on everything. So the bureaucracy has actually mushroomed as opposed to shrinking away. You know, you think because now we can all work in little networks, we're all autonomous. No, it's the opposite. Big Brother can look over your shoulder and test that commercial even more.
Yeah, it's true.
You know?
And live. I mean, you know, I'm sure people on this call, you know, are across Google.
They're all crying now because they're super discouraged and bummed out.
Well, no, there's actually really good news on the horizon, which is good. But Google Analytics is your enemy and your friend. That's all I'll say. It's incredible the information you get, but also don't forget how spikes happen. Spikes happen through inspiration. They don't happen through predictability.
GameStop. Brilliant.
I wish I'd been on that subreddit group. My God.
I know. I just read today that a guy who invested $30,000 for a brief time, his stock was worth $48 million.
Well, there you go. There's your business plan sorted.
Exactly. Step 1, steal all the underpants. Step 2, step 3, profit. Yeah, exactly. The underpant gnome. If people in BrandDIY don't know what I'm talking about, it's South Park underpant gnomes. Look it up. All right. The reason I want to bring you on the show, one, because like you're one of my favorite people in the whole wide world to talk to. And no, I don't say that. all the time.
I don't know what the rest of them are like then. But
No,
anyway,
there's first of all, there's not very many, right?
well, we're all stuck at home, so I'm the only person.
Yeah, so I talked to the dog,
yeah, exactly.
but apart from the
It's
dog,
nice
you're
to have
my
one above
favorite.
the dog. Anyway,
Yeah, you're my favorite person apart from the dog. But I want to talk about having fun. And I just thought you would be the best person in the world, because entrepreneurs are, on the one hand, they're going, screw it. I left the big company because the big company was doing what you were just describing, testing stuff, testing the crap out of it. So they're all just like going, screw you. I'm going to go do my own thing. And they're at BrandDIY now. And now they're looking at all these incredible tools that can test the shit out of everything. Orange button for clicking, green button for clicking. Why don't we side by side test them? It's this, it's that. And my point is, that's like the early days of film, where it's in the hands of the technologists. And you and I talked about this, but when they first came up with film, the very first films were like a train coming towards the audience, and the audience freaked out. When TV first came on, you could film a guy and then have him walk off set and film again, and you go, oh, how did he disappear? That's technology, and that's what we're in right now, testing the shit out of everything. But once you get to a level like in The Incredibles, where everyone has superpowers, suddenly nobody has superpowers, and you have to start being artistic and creative and having fun again. So that's why I want to bring you on, because these people, entrepreneurs, they need to know that if they have fun with their work, they're going to get a whole lot further on a minuscule budget than if they don't have fun.
Totally agree. Every dollar, as you well know, every dollar has to count. And so it's kind of, as I said earlier, it has to be, you have to run on instinct. You have to run on brand promise and instinct. And then, as you say, try and do something that cuts through. I mean, I was thinking about something which is completely the opposite end of the scale. So sorry, Mark, but this is when I was at HBO, we had a brief come in to get new viewers to watch Game of Thrones. Now, Game of Thrones.
Hold on, let's just park that thought for a second. You got to do the freaking advertising for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, well, it was a lot of fun. I mean,
yeah, I can imagine.
HBO was a bit like the Red Wedding Daily as a business, but it was a lot of fun. But so we had this brief, which was to get new viewers, because they did exist, to come to Game of Thrones. And so they said, well, let's do like a 3-minute, condensed. It was like season 1 to 5. Let's put it into 3 minutes, and that'll be great. And we're like, well, not really, because it's going to be complete garbage. People aren't going to know what the hell you're talking about. You've got 4 or 5 families warring. You've got like all of these kind of strange relationships going on. You can't just condense that. So what can we do to A, break through, and B, make new people want to come to it? And I had this creative, but she's actually, I brought her over to YouTube because she's so brilliant, Nairi Emery. And she came up with this idea. She said, well, why don't we just do a cut? We'll get it voiced over by Sam Jackson, right? And so we're going to have him just basically going, what the fuck?
Hold on, let me just park that thought.
Yeah, exactly.
You were working with Samuel Jackson?
Yeah, he was a character. But so basically, you start off and you've got like, you opening credits, and then this little dragon comes in and he goes like, and there's dragons. He goes, fuck those dragons. That's the first thing. And then straight away, everybody's like, what? And like, and I think it's had 20 million views now. It like got press coverage everywhere. And it was suddenly, there was a whole generation going, fuck those dragons. And it worked like a treat. And it was just because it was funny breakthrough, and no one expected Sam Jackson to talk about Game of Thrones. Do you know what I mean? So boom. And that is, I know, any of the businesses we're talking today here aren't as big as Game of Thrones, and they haven't got the money for Sam Jackson.
But hold on. Now I want to go right back. And I want to talk about entrepreneur, pure level entrepreneur. Great story. Nile Rodgers, the guy who started Chic, the funk guitar player, super famous, David Bowie. When they were in the gutter in New York, and they were just a bunch of kids starting the band, what they used to do, they used to jam at night, and they would come up with a funk track, and then they would record it on their cassette recorder, and they would walk down to Studio 54, where, because they were all really groovy, they got in the back door, and they give it to the DJ, and the DJ would put on that cassette, And if people got up and started shaking their ass, they had a hit.
It was a win.
And
Brilliant.
they had no money. So, there you go. You draw something on a napkin, hold it up, and if somebody goes, ha, 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 chances are good. You got an idea.
And I think that's really why I found YouTube so fascinating, is because anybody can have a YouTube channel. Anybody on this call, if they haven't got one now, they should. And you can start making content. It's like the democratization of media, because, and you can even get paid for it if you're successful at it, which is even better. So I lost my thought.
No, but I think it's imperative that if you're just out of the garage, you have an idea, that you go, okay, I got no money, but I can sit in front of a camera. I can do a hand puppet.
Yeah.
You could throw it on YouTube, see if it sticks, like Nile Rodgers, see if people start to dance to it.
And then if it doesn't work, take it down, do another one. If it doesn't work, take it down, do another one. And that's the thing, and there's a few basic rules. I think we were talking about this earlier, is like, you have 20% drop off after 10 seconds. So make it interesting. I know it sounds obvious, but just make it interesting. And if you look at the creators that really are really successful, they know how to connect. They're really honest to camera. There's very few frills. You don't need a production budget like Game of Thrones. You can just put yourself, your ugly mug or beautiful mug in front of the camera and just talk. And if you have something that you believe in, it's amazing how other people believe in it. Yeah.
And it's great. I had this, I'm working with these guys out of Australia who we're working on a big charity pitch with them. And they talked about how the big formalized, bureaucratized, safe and sound process sucks. In Australia, the Red Cross did a big appeal after the Australian fires and raised X million dollars. And then a celebrity, a comedian, goes out and doubles or triples the amount of money raised of the entire Red Cross. And it's just because she's a jackass on YouTube and Instagram. Yeah. She just makes fun of herself. She's like an Amy Schumer of Australia. Yeah. And she just kills. And so, you know what? You have a funny message. You have Samuel L. Jackson going, dragons.
Actually, if anybody on this call, do Google it, because it's 5 minutes of your life that you will enjoy. Trust me.
Oh my God, that's so funny. That's so funny. But I do believe that everybody is missing the script, because they go, well, I have to test orange versus green. I have to do this. And they're getting bogged down in the shiny objects that are being put out by the technologists, when in fact, all you need to do really is have a little more fun, with what you're doing.
I think a really good example, you mentioned that I worked at TBWA, and the reason I went there is, because in their early days, they obviously, I'm not going to go into detail because everyone knows the story about Apple, but they had this whole theory, which was, they called disruption, but actually it was just like, let's stir the fucking pot. Let's not do that. Let's do that. And so when I finally got there, I was like, this is going to be great. Everyone's going to be like stirring the pot. But actually disruption had been put into a book, and suddenly it was all matrices laid over to disruption. And I'm like, no, the lunatics the asylum had taken over the lunatics. And it was like, no. And suddenly that's really when my love affair, as I said, kind of with advertising agencies fell apart. And I think that, disruption, I refound disruption in the entertainment space, and I've been living it since, because those rules again coming right back to full circle. It's gut.
Yeah. Okay. So we're into the part of the program where I'm an entrepreneur. I'm just out of the garage. I don't have any money. What if I was working with you? What would you have me do first, second, and third?
Oh my God. Well, first and foremost, I'll just have you talk to me about what you're selling. I would sit back and just let you talk and see your passion and see why you're doing it. See the philosophy behind it, where you see the space in the marketplace, and as I said, why you're doing it. And then get to know you as a person, and get to know your hot buttons, what you're passionate about, what makes you laugh, what makes you cry. Because again, everything about your brand everything about the brand you've created should carry the DNA that you put into that brand in a marketing sense. So let's get that DNA out. And then from there, I'll go away and, just start messing around with ideas. And it might be that, we start with something really small. So we start with just we set up a YouTube channel, for instance, or we set up a really great Twitter account with just fantastic, funny content. There's lots of useful, there's a rule book for Twitter, there's a rule book for YouTube, which you can do that will certainly help. But again, first and foremost, it's kind of putting stuff out that's going to get you noticed and then really build from there. And, that it's an organic process. I think that you can't say, well, look, in 6 months' time, we're going to roll out a TV spot. And then that's bullshit. In 6 months' time, let's see where we are. Let's see what's working and what's not working. If that's not working, well, throw that away and do something else. I think this world is so fast changing. If you're not fast changing with it, then you're just it's not going to work for you.
Well, it's also, I think it's just an artistic sort of way of looking at things. If everybody's over here, go over here and start wondering about new things. And you said right at the very beginning, if somebody said, where do you want to be in 5 years? I don't know where, but I want to be in the middle of it. And I want to be having fun. I think the whole idea, if you're an entrepreneur and you're feeling beat down right now, one of the best things that you can do is go, wait a minute. I want to get in the middle of some stuff that really excites me about what I'm doing.
Completely.
And then just
put
that out.
Why did you do this in the first place? You did it as a reaction. You did it because you were you trusted your gut, and you did it because you wanted to do something new. That should be, and sorry, my computer's blowing up. I'm going to shut the other one. And that should be, it's YouTube, they'll be fine.
Those are all the nasty comments from the show, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, the best marketing, the best creative should re-energize that sense of fun in the entrepreneur as well. They should be having a riot. Phoning up saying, did you do that? That's fucking great.
Yeah, I love
because
that.
That's why you started this business in the first place, because you wanted to do something that you wanted to be fucking great.
Yeah, I love it. It's funny. It reminds me of this story. I was working on E-Trade in Canada. They were like an affiliate of E-Trade USA. So they weren't joined at the hip to the mothership. And I had a client, and I joined Gray, and I knew I had 6 months. I think you know about this story. I had 6 months to really rattle everybody's cage. Otherwise they go, he just joined the big stupid agency and he's going to go down and just be boring. So you knew this from Chai Day. You have to do something. Yeah. And it has to be radical. And so I picked E-Trade as the account that we were going to do something on, because the client was sort of like, yeah, we're not doing anything really great. We're selling all, and I joined E-Trade because I wanted to do the monkey with I want to do that stuff.
Yes.
And I said, well, what if we could do something even more radical? And he goes, yeah, let's do it. And so one of my writers, a female writer, by the way, came to me with this idea. She said, what I've heard from day traders is that day trading is better than sex.
Right.
Wait a minute. So why don't we do a commercial where all the guys are standing around the water cooler talking about their stock trades, and they all have boners. And the one guy walks up and he doesn't have a boner, and he sees all these guys and they're all talking about stock trades, and he can't help but notice their boners. And then he goes back to his desk and he does a trade, and then whoom, and the pencil jumps off the desk because he suddenly got a boner.
That's great.
And we shot the commercial, and we shot it for next to nothing because the production studio said, cool, E-Trade, 2 boners. And so we shot it for next to nothing. And then we were about to release it, and E-Trade USA bought E-Trade Canada and said, shut down all your communication. We can't have any controversy around this. Hold on. No, the story's really good. So we were crushed. And the client was, oh, Mark, you can't you can't do anything. You can't, just stop it. In fact, the director can't show this commercial at any agency sort of screening saying, hey, we did this. Do you want some? Oh. So the director and the production studio were out like $50,000, $60,000, $100,000. And we were just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened was the director went around and said, we shot this commercial that was so hot that nobody's allowed to see it.
Boom.
And I know. And everybody was coming down on me. They're like, Mark, did you show the commercial? I go, no, I didn't show the commercial. They go, everybody knows about the commercial. What's going on? The production studio was getting business based on a commercial that nobody was even allowed to see. The client was like, Mark, did you show the commercial? I go, no. He said, well, everybody's talking about it. This is my client on Bloor Street or on Bay Street in Toronto. in the tech part of town and the finance part of town, they were all talking about it. Nobody had seen the commercial. I'm like, in the future, I'm not going to make any ads. I'm just going to tell people that I've created something that's too hot for TV.
Well, I equate that with, you know, if you see a building site, you go like, oh, it's a building site. You put a big fence around it and cut a little window in it. Everybody wants to see what's through the window. Still a building site. That is a brand.
That's a brand. And on that, I'm gonna leave it because you got some world domination to do and scheming on. I got scheming on how I can finally get you back on a project.
All right. Well, look, thanks,
It's
Mark. Lovely
so
to see you.
fun.
Yeah, and just remember, everybody, fuck those dragons. See you later.
See ya.